Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Declan Mulready from the Audi Academy. Over the next short while we're going to walk you through the Audi A5 from a few different perspectives: performance, safety, interior, exterior, and so on. At the end of this we hope you've got a better understanding of the Audi A5 and what the car is all about. To start us off, I'd like to walk around some of the exterior cues of the Audi A5. When the A5 was released to the public, it was already regarded as a modern classic, simply because of its styling. And when you take a look at design, design is becoming more and more important in every aspect of our life, and this car embodies it. It has the very best of Italian style, but also the very best of German engineering. The chief designer for the car was a gentleman by the name of Walter de Silva, and one of the things he set out to do was create a modern classic, and he chased the GT car in order to do that. And what I mean by GT car, if you look at the 60s and early 70s, these were high performance cars that could cross Europe very, very quickly with huge, big, powerful engines and small back seats, but very comfortable up front, and also a very comfortable car to cruise at high speeds in. And when you take a look at the A5, it absolutely embodies all of that. Very comfortable, you can travel for long distances at high speeds very, very comfortably. And from a styling point of view, you instantly know it's a sporty car. So let's take a look at some of those styling cues. First of all, it's the first two-door Audi coupe that we've done in a long, long time. In fact, it's been over 20 years. And when you take a look at the original Audi Quattro, this car actually has some of the design cues from that built into it. If you take a look at the front wheel arches and the rear wheel arches, you'll notice that they're protruding, they're sticking out, they're giving the car a more muscular stance. Next, we have a very high belt line, which also helps give the car a muscular stance as well. When you take a look at the flowing line we have running from front to back, it actually waves a little bit, and it gives the car some depth when you're looking at it from a side-on perspective. Needless to say, it also embodies the traditional Audi cues, and when we come to the front of the car, you'll see these are executed brilliantly. Needless to say, we have the big, bold Audi grille on front. We have the LEDs, and on this car they're extremely prominent. And we also have the lower radiator ducts as well. In addition, this car also has a much more aggressive front fascia. The grille sits lower to the ground, so it gives the car a more mean look. But one of the things that this car doesn't give up is the elegance. And that's really what GT cars were all about back then. They embodied performance, but also elegance at the same time. This car is also available as a convertible, so for those people that like a little bit of wind in their hair, a perfect option for that. Needless to say, options like xenons, sport package, those are available as well. When most people think about safety, they think about things like airbags, safety belts, and that sort of stuff. I want to take a look at the A5 from a slightly different perspective. You have to bear in mind that these cars are bred in Germany for the German Autobahn, and as a result, when they get into accidents, they typically happen at a higher speed. One of the most important things in any car is the cage that it's built around. In other words, the cage that protects the driver. On the Audi A5, that cage starts down here at the bottom of the A-pillar, works its way up through the A-pillar, down into the B-pillar, and then drips off down into the back C-pillar. So if you get into a frontal crash, the energy will move up and over the vehicle. If you get into a side accident, instead of the energy concentrating around the door and being pushed through the door, we actually have multiple door beams in the door. So now the energy goes sideways. The bottom line is that we want to keep all that energy away from the driver before the airbags ever get a chance to work. Next up, we have the systems that help protect the driver from ever having an accident in the first place. The first one of those would be ESP, or Electronic Stability Program. Basically what it does, it will apply the brake to an individual wheel to prevent the car getting into a skid or skidding out of control. And that way the driver can head on the path that they originally intended to go. Next up, we have ABS. And how this works is when the driver has their foot full on the brake, it still allows that driver to have steering control of the vehicle. In other words, steer around the object that's actually in front of them. Next up, we have a feature called Brake Assist. For some people, when they feel the ABS ticking away at the brake pedal, they have a tendency to lift their foot off the brake. And what brake assist does is apply 100% braking as they are lifting their foot off the brake. In other words, it will bring the car to a controlled stop before they take their foot fully off the brake. Next up, we have things like airbags. So if the car does get into an accident, we have that as protection as well. We have a driver front, passenger front. We have a curtain airbag that runs the entire side of the car right here. And then we have individual seat airbags that offer the driver protection right here, basically protecting the vital organs. So we've talked about the exterior design of the car just a little bit. Now what I'd like to do is move on and talk about the performance side of things. For the A5 and the S5, we have 3 different engine configurations. We have the 4-cylinder 2OT FSI motor. It develops 211 horsepower, but more importantly 258 pound-feet of torque. And this gives the car incredibly good shove at low RPM. Next up, we have the V6 TFSI, and that's available in the S5 Cabriolet. Excellent performance, very good fuel economy. Then for the S5 Coupe, we have the 4.2 normally aspirated FSI V8. Along with those engines, for the 2-litre, we have a new 8-speed Tiptronic transmission. Needless to say, the more gears you have, the less hard the engine has to work, the better performance it gives, and the better gas mileage it gets as well. Now I'd like to move on and talk about some things that don't have anything to do with engine, but it's still on the performance front. First up, let's talk about the braking system. The Audi S5 and the A5 has a 4-wheel disc brake system. Depending on which car it is, some cars have bigger rotors, some cars have smaller rotors. But regardless, the front and rear rotors on each model are very, very large compared to the cars in its class. Also, the suspension on this car is very sophisticated. It has quite a few elements built into it. First of all, for the front end, we use a 5-link suspension system. This is completely different than any other car in its class, and most cars in this class are using McPherson strut. The benefit of this suspension system is that you keep the tire perfectly flat on the road at all times. Now I know it seems like all cars are going to do this. However, the way the suspension is arranged, it is completely flat at all times. Better braking, better cornering, and better acceleration and better control are the benefits that go along with this. When we move down to the rear suspension, we have a very sophisticated multi-link arrangement back there as well. Again, exactly the same benefits apply. Bottom line, when you're braking, you've got absolute control. When you're accelerating, you've got absolute control. When you're going through a corner, you've got absolute control. Speaking of control, one of the great benefits of any Audi is that it's available with Quattro, and this car is no exception to that. This car is available with the 40% drive to the front, 60% drive to the rear. And remember, this is only a static figure. In other words, that's when the car is moving very slowly or when it's standing still. As soon as the car is up and running, that torque split moves backwards and forwards. Put plain and simply, we have a proactive all-wheel drive system that puts the power to the axle that can use it most. And that's regardless of whether we have snow, whether we have rain, or whether we have dry pavement driving. So now we're going to take a look at the interior of the Audi A5. When you take a look at some of the design elements that are carried over from the outside to the inside, again you can see a very strong Italian design influence. One of the first ones is that the instruments are buried very deeply in the dashboard, and this is going to be reminiscent of late 60s, early 70s Ferraris, Maseratis and Lamborghinis. Next is the way the dashboard flows. It has quite a different contour to most of the Audis in the lineup. It's a little bit more organic, if you want to put it that way. Next, from an options point of view, needless to say, there's quite a few seating configurations. We have the standard seats, then we have the seats that are available on the S-Line cars, and then when you move to the S cars, well, I think you know that those seats are not just exceptionally good looking, but also very comfortable and very supportive for performance driving. Next, let's talk about one of the things that Audi is known best for, and that is our attention to detail, not just on the outside of the cars, but in this case, on the inside as well. Everything you feel, from something as simple as the steering wheel, to every button that you press, to the air vents, to the chrome optic, everything has an absolutely fantastic touch. And this is where our haptics department has worked on the cars very aggressively. From an optical point of view, as you look around the dashboard, everything is where it should be. There's a place for everything and everything is in its place. When you look at the wood inlays that we use or the carbon inlays that we use, everything is absolutely top quality and the fit and finish is spectacular. Now I'd like to jump in and talk about technology regarding the A5. In this class of car, let's be honest here, customers do expect technology, and this car has it in abundance. We have a 3D navigation system that will get you anywhere you want to go. The graphic display is absolutely fantastic and its capability is almost endless. That's available with Sirius, which also comes with real-time traffic, so it can reroute you as you try to get around the country with today's traffic. In addition to navigation, we also have many other useful pieces of technology in here. We have a reverse camera. Think about it, two-door body shell. As you're reversing backwards, it's a little bit harder to see out back. This brings up the back of the car very, very clearly. Next, a feature we all use every day, and that is Bluetooth. If you get the coupe versions, that's also available with voice recognition. Works exceptionally well, simple to hook up, very easy to use. Some other technologies that are available in this car are things like adaptive cruise control. For anybody that has spent a lot of time in traffic, you'll find this to be an absolutely fantastic element. Very few people also realize that brake guard is one of the things that's built into this. So if for some reason you're not paying attention, even with the adaptive cruise turned off, it has that built-in level of safety where it will warn you that you're getting too close to the next vehicle in front of you. So we were talking about technology. To me, technology actually goes a step further. The electronics that we have in here are fantastic and they're very useful driver aids, wonderful. However, it actually goes something deeper than that, or somewhere deeper than that. And that to me is the engineering that goes into this car. I know I've mentioned already that the car is born and bred in Germany to be driven on the Autobahn. And I want you to think about all the additional features that have to be built into a car for it to travel at 100 miles an hour plus every day. Larger brakes, beefier suspension system that gives you great road holding at high speed, but also is supple enough when you're going down backcountry roads or you're traveling down a cobblestone street to be able to absorb everything that's being put through it. Next, the steering. We have a steering system that is very, very light when you're at parking speed, so you don't have to wrestle with the car. But as the car gets faster, the steering heaviers up to give you more feel and more control of the car as you drive faster. Next, the body shell, the way it's put together. We use laser seam welding, which is a very, very expensive process. It's also a very exclusive process. Bottom line, it makes the car more rigid. Now, that's great from a road holding point of view. We also don't have to fit suspension that's incredibly harsh to make up for a flimsy body shell, so you get a very, very comfortable ride. And next, when the vehicle does get into an accident, you've also got a stronger and safer cage around you to work. Then, you take a look at the ergonomics, the way everything is designed. This is also engineering. We do have a team that works purely on stuff like this. No, it's not electronics, it's not flashy, but this is the kind of stuff our company puts into every single car to make sure that you can drive at 100 plus miles an hour all day long, while you're in Germany, of course. But while we're traveling here in the States, to make it a very comfortable environment to be in.